I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Zimmer is joining us remotely today. Okay. We have the public comment on agenda items. Is there anyone here to comment on items that are on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. We have minutes from February 11th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second.
Motion was made and seconded. I'll call for the vote. Mr. Olet, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Wardy, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion carries. Now we're moving to the approval of the bills. Do I have a motion to approve the bills?
I'll make the motion.
And I will second.
A motion was made and seconded. I will call for the vote. Mr. Olet, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Wardy, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion carries. Issuance of request for qualifications. At this time, we have the consultants from Altair. Altair is going to be doing a presentation today on the request for qualifications for the Presque Isle Gateway Project. Exciting stuff, Mr. Peters.
Thank you, and thank you for having us again. A few things to go over today. We are at the stage where we would like to recommend to the authority board that they approve us going forward with this request for qualifications. We'll get a little more into the detail of the follow-on process, but the idea is that we would take this document that I'm going to take you through today, and we would share it very widely amongst the development community. So we will use proprietary lists from Altair along with regional developer lists and partner organizations, things like the Institute of Real Estate Management, NAOP, the Urban Land Institute, other organizations that work with developers to share with them this request for qualifications. Additionally, there's a tool called Property Campaign, which we will also utilize, which gets the message out to thousands of developers across the country. And then ultimately, we'll use local advertising of this and make sure that anyone that has expressed interest in the project over the couple of years that we've been working on this, they will also have access to this document that I'm about to share. The idea, the concept with this, going through this process of an RFQ is that, as this authority well knows, the comprehensive plan followed up, the 2016 Embrace Millcreek plan was followed up with the Presque Isle Gateway District plan, or a neighborhood plan. And that idea was to create a more pedestrian-friendly, walkable, mixed-use type of environment than what existed on 8th Street. And so the RFQ is going to seek out developers that understand the concept that Charles Buki started with Embrace Millcreek and the group that did Presque Isle Gateway District Plan had proposed. So this document follows the guidance of both of those plans to encourage developers to come forward and show their interest in helping with it. And so the next step after this, and we'll get to this in a second, the next step after this is that we will request that the board analyze the responses that we get to deem who is qualified to participate in a request for proposals. And so later this summer, and we'll get into this in a little more detail, later this summer, we're going to request those that get selected to give us their actual proposals. So I say all of that because as we go through this, there are certain things that are prescriptive, that we're going to say 0 lot lines, sidewalks, certain approach to the design, mixed use. Those things are prescriptive. We want mixed use. We don't want to see, and again, I say we collectively, the collective we from the Embrace Millcreek Plan through the Presque Isle Gateway District Plan want to see this happen. So some of the items in this RFQ are prescriptive. They're going to say, you need to do it this way to be in compliance with what the township has put in place. Other things are ideas. What we're trying to do with this document is give developers an idea of what might work on the site. And so we're excited to share with you a few of those things. Now, I know that bits and pieces of this you may have seen because they come from Embrace Millcreek and the Presque Isle Gateway District Plan. So some of these slides we'll go through quickly. So we start with explaining to potential development partners the timeline. And so that's what this slide shows. It describes the process that the township went through. I think it's important to note, during the Embrace Millcreek Plan, there was significant public input. And during the Presque Isle Gateway District Plan, there was significant public input. And so these ideas are not things that Altair dreamt up or that either the supervisors dreamt up back when the supervisors were kicking this off. And I don't think any of the three supervisors today were around when Embrace Millcreek was put together, so it wasn't like you all invented this, but it's important to show that timeline and show that throughout the process, the public has said these are the types of things we want. So we share that. We think we need to lead, we don't want to bury the headline, and we think we need to lead with Presque Isle. The Presque Isle Gateway District is to support and enhance and grow business around the peninsula, extending stays, making it so people want to be in this part of our community longer. And so we get into a significant number of stats on the peninsula itself. I can't quite read this from this angle, so forgive me for bouncing over, but we then do describe in a slightly greater detail the district plan. We start showing some renderings from the plan so that folks can see exactly the type of development we're looking for. We highlight, maybe, thank you. If you don't mind, then I can come over here and see it. So, you see the master plan recommendations here in red. Obviously, the sites that we're talking about are right here and right here. But we still believe that there will be follow-on investment and development as a result of these efforts. As most of you know, there already has been some forward motion in that regard. A long vacant piece of land next to the Sportsman's Club was transacted. The Colony Plaza transacted. There are folks investing in this corridor after the township and the authority took the leadership to go ahead and start implementing this plan. These are probably a little harder to read, but this slide shows the feedback from the public surveys that were done related to the district plan, talking about things like we need hotel, we need recreational things to do in the area, we might want more housing in the area, apartments, a grocery store, those kinds of things. We then get into it, we double down on the market momentum. Remember, your audience here are developers. These are folks that have opportunity to go develop all over. And we're pointing out why they might want to consider. So we talked more about some of the investment from the state, DCNR, PennDOT improvements, all these different things. We get into highlighting the development site along with things going on in other parts of the community, which I think is important to note. The airport, showing the Downtown Development Corp, all these different key things that are happening. All right, so we get into a little more detail. Developers want to know what is actually developable. What can they build on this site? So we first point out how we've assembled these parcels, both on the north and the south side of 8th Street along Peninsula. We then give them a little more detail. By the way, I think everybody understands these setbacks, but it's probably important to note that this is a little different than some other township type development where you are encouraging parking in the front, and we are instead saying we want it in the back, and these setbacks are pointing that out. So we did a couple of concepts. This is where it's really important to say these are not prescriptive. These are ideas for how you can mass or put buildings in place. And what this drawing shows is a 17,000 square foot retail location. By the way, let me back up for a second. This design would match all current zoning. So there's no need for any variances. Now, we come to a couple of options that show where there might be a need for variance, but this is what could be built on the site without any further entitlement. And so we're showing a 3-story hotel that can get about 111 rooms. We're showing retail on the first floor of these 2 buildings, and we're suggesting apartments on the upper 2 floors. We can go to 4 stories, we think, with this hotel, depending on what flag a developer may want. We then say, you know what, though, we kind of would like a more park-like setting, some public space. So we drop in a park. Now, keep in mind, we didn't go at this the way maybe our planning department might, with a little more graphic representation. Matt's working with another firm that's going to help with some of that. But this shows a park that's about 3 times the size of the first one. But what that means is that we would need to request a variance on parking, or a developer would. By the way, to clear that up, Altair's not a developer. I know that in the community there's been questions about, is Altair trying to develop this? We work with developers. We are not developers. So then we say, okay, well, what if we want to keep the parking and we want to meet the zoning requirement? And we show a parking garage with a wraparound building. For anyone that's been downtown recently at the 5th and State site where McDonald's used to be and Dave's Diner is going, there's a parking ramp behind Dave's Diner, and the Dave's Diner building sort of wraps around. We show an option for that. Again, just ideas to help developers see what might fit on the site. We actually lay out some hospitality. We have worked with developers on hotels in the past, and so our design team that laid this out showed what we could fit. This shows dining on the first floor facing 8th and Peninsula. It shows the fitness center and all those kinds of things on the first floor, and on upper floors it shows the rooms, which is how we get to the density that we think a developer would require. And then we show a residential concept. This, again, going back, that's these 2 buildings. By the way, all 3 buildings we're showing connected. This is a drive lane, but we would connect these so that folks living in the apartments would have access to the hotel amenities. And we show what those apartments might look like. Again, our audience, real estate developers, they're going to be very, very interested in zoning requirements. And so we give them some land development context. For example, we don't think anyone would want to do this, but we point out we are in the airport zone, so we can't go higher than 150 or 180 feet in the air. Again, don't think that would happen, but it's important to note those things. We share what permitted uses are, and we give traffic counts. Retail demand, this is my colleague Amy, one of her favorite slides, because it does point out that Millcreek and there's a significant retail demand. Talk about tourism a bit. And then we give them a couple of options. We're willing to talk about we are recommending to the board that you consider allowing developers to propose a number of different solutions. Maybe one might want a master development agreement where they take control of the whole site, but they find a developer to do the hotel, a developer to do the multifamily, a developer to do the retail. I think that the board should consider, well, it's a big project. What if we allowed someone to do the south side, the retail site on on the south end of the development, and maybe someone to just do the north side. So we want to give these folks a realization that we're open to ideas. So we're asking that the board take action on this presentation. This part wouldn't go to, maybe it would, because it talks about the rest of the schedule, but we'd like to get the RFQ released. We would like to review those, give folks enough time that if they want to come see the site, whatever, we give them enough time, we get their responses back, and then we go out to seek proposals. Now, one thing to note about an RFQ, I've had people ask me about this, like, why do you add that step of the RFQ? And the reality is that this is going to be a significant development with significant dollars at play. And so we think it's important that we make sure that the developers that are coming to the table have the financial wherewithal to produce. And then we think summer, fall, we make those responses to our RFP be due. I talked about the distribution. One other thing that I didn't address, there's been questions about why don't we just stick a for sale sign on the property? And, I've shared this before with this group and with the public. Altair has two divisions, right? We have our traditional real estate services business, and we have our consulting group. We do transactions, right? So you'll see our signs on commercial buildings. We don't do any sort of residential, but you'll see our signs sometimes on buildings, and we are not opposed to transactional efforts. That's typically you have a building or you have a piece of land, and it's up to whoever buys it what they're going to do. This is a little different. Again, going back to the plan that the prior set of supervisors put in place, and the district plan, the neighborhood plan that this group of supervisors put in place with consent and feedback from the public, we realized that just sticking a for sale sign on that property isn't going to be the best way to redeem value for the entirety of the community. I don't think that the authority has ever looked at this as a, financial only transaction. This is about economic development and this process of getting qualified respondents that will allow us to better select someone to actually implement the development, we think is an important middle step. So I think that's it, and I'm glad to answer questions from the board.
Thank you very much, Chuck, for that presentation. I think that clarified a lot of things. What kind of questions do we have from the board?
I want you to go deeper into the RFQ, okay?
Okay.
I'm glad that you had that little caveat, hey, this is really to ensure that we get the right type of people involved in the project. It's not only the financial juice that they have, it's also that we can see a demonstrated track record of what they may have done in other markets, right?
That's absolutely correct.
And what you're really saying, Chuck, and you said it very eloquently, but I just want to go on record here. This can't be some hodgepodge, hey, let's go with the quickest, solution. This really needs to be thought through. That's why you have the two layers. You have the RFQ, then the RFP will come later, making sure we get the right types of people involved in the project, and then those people that share the vision of what the township really can do here, right?
That's correct. And if I could, by way of example, I can give you all, and I think we've talked about these in the past, but there are some examples nearby that if folks wanted to kind of see how this ends up feeling. If you think of the old LTV steel site in Pittsburgh that the SOFR organization did, it's got a traditional, sort of we'll call it maybe loosely traditional town feel where buildings are to the sidewalk, there's bicycle infrastructure, there's pedestrian friendly crossings, all of those things were very thoughtfully done. The Presque Isle State Park is the crown jewel of the state park system. And to create an environment that will allow visitors to feel comfortable, I think is very important. And so yes, Mr. Wardy, to to your point, it's so critical that the developer not only have the financial wherewithal, but they understand the vision. If you look at, we did a kind of a similar project in Buffalo starting back in 2007 called the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. And the medical campus itself is a group of 5 institutions, maybe 7 now, but at the time 5. And they said, boy, we're Roswell Park Cancer Institute, we're University of Buffalo, we're Buffalo General Hospital, we're Buffalo Medical Group, and we're Buffalo Eye. And we bring people to this part of town and it doesn't feel welcoming and it doesn't feel safe. And so a very similar process was put in place to find developers. Now, in their case, much larger land mass, many more millions of square feet of real estate, but the idea was the same. We need to find partners that are going to understand our vision and that, oh, by the way, can have demonstrable experience with this type of activity. Another great one to go look at that's more our size, the Millcreek size, would be the Van Aken district in Cleveland, which has a very similar kind of feel to this, using public streets, but combining multifamily and hospitality and retail.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? And so I would respectfully request that the authority board authorized us to go forward with the release of the RFQ. We think that to get all of our list stuff done will probably be another week or week and a half, but once the authority board is okay with this approach, we'll push that out.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
I was speaking with Brandon Mendoza today. He's the new director of the Erie Chamber and Growth Partnership, and he is beyond excited with this project. And I know we met with him yesterday as well, but today I spoke with him, and he comes from Pittsburgh. He's done work in New York and some other places, but he said this is done all over the place. Like this is economic development. It's private-public partnership. This is what you do.
That's
and
correct.
It's been done the right way. So he was really impressed actually with all the work before us that what Matt Waldinger had been doing before Dan got here or I got here. We just took it over the finish line, or are taking it.
Yeah, 2 final quick comments. Mr. Mendoza he and I sort of speak a similar language because he worked for NAOP, which used to stand for the National Association of Office and Industrial Professionals. It's a real estate trade group. It's nice to have someone in that role that does understand this type of effort. And then the other thing I would say is that I agree. Congratulations and kudos to the township, the authority, the planning department, because we do often hear from the public, oh, they're doing another plan, not Millcreek necessarily, but we work all over. So, insert this particular community's name. They're always working on a plan. Well, what's impressive about what Millcreek's doing with the Presque Isle Gateway District is they've gone from comprehensive plan to neighborhood plan to implementation. And so, kudos to all of you for doing that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that doesn't happen often in this world of government.
Sure. Thank
Mr.
you.
Waldinger, thank you very much, Mr. Peters. We appreciate you being here and presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, if I could just add a little more detail
Sure.
to the public around what Chuck said. The request today is for the board to authorize us to move forward with issuance of this RFQ. As Chuck mentioned, that would probably take another few days to finalize the materials, put the mailing list together. Just wanted to note for the public that once this is released, there will be ads. I think Chuck might have mentioned it in his slide in the Erie Times, as well as being sent nationwide. This will also live on the authority's website. And so it will be linked to the Millcreek Township website. So anyone that's interested and would like to see the letters that are going out or the materials that Chuck presented today,
great.
the public will also be able to see all of those as well.
That's great. So this should be in the hands of developers. If this goes through, this should be in the hands of developers in the next week and a half? Okay, that's exciting. Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions from the board? Any comments?
None here.
Okay. All right. I am going to call for the vote then. This would be, or I'm sorry, I need a motion to the issuance of a request for qualifications by Altair.
I'll make it.
And I will second.
Okay, motion was made and seconded. I'll call for the vote. Mr. Olet, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Wardy, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. This is exciting.
Nice job, Chuck.
Nice job.
Nice job.
It's taken a few years, Steve, to get here, but we're getting here.
And I do want to say, Matt, you've been the guy behind the scenes
Oh.
doing a lot of this, so thank you very much. The entire
Yes.
team here, great job.
I'm also going to recognize as well Infinite Erie and the work that they have been doing on behalf of the Millcreek Township Authority, getting out information to our legislators, elected officials, to the business community. We have an outpouring of support from all over, and I think that that's been really exciting. Amy Murdoch is also here from Altair, and she has been a godsend. We cannot thank her enough for the guidance and work that she has done in getting us to this moment. So, big stuff. Yep. Yes. The momentum in Erie and the city of Erie, everywhere we go, the momentum is just, it's infectious. It is. So, okay. Sorry, I'm extra happy right now. All right, we are going to move now on to communications. We have Treasurer Communications. Ms. Page, anything?
After that, I've got nothing. So-
Okay. Thank you very much. Executive Director Communications.
I do have just a couple brief things. First, I do feel like today's a very exciting day. We're kind of turning the corner on this project, and we're putting to bed some of the preparation, and we're moving on to anticipation of what will be next. But speaking of putting to bed some of that preparation, happy to report that yesterday, some may have seen on the news, that demolition did start on the Bel Air. They are working on that today and hopefully should be done within the next few weeks. To that end, the last two buildings that remain in the corridor are both scheduled to be down and should be down by Memorial Day. So before summer tourist season really kicks off, those sites should be completely clear. By May 31st, they have to be completely graded and seeded and shovel ready for any future development. So that's my report.
Great. Wonderful. Site prep. For all of the developers that are going to come in this summer and tour. Very good. Thank you very much. We were able to see some of the demolition. I think there's a mixture of sadness with everyone, with the memories that we have of the Bel Air and the unfortunate circumstances of, what had happened in the last, 15 years or so. And so it's too bad, but I think we can really, we are now here to move forward. And I think that we're heading in a good direction. So, solicitor communications, Attorney Shaw.
Nothing on my part in terms of solicitor, but I guess just to comment on the momentous day that we've have finally arrived at, and just to remind people what was there. We had a bar on the corner that was viewed by PLCB as a nuisance bar.
Yeah.
That was creating a lot of problems. They were holding events there that I can't speak about in public because of just the nature of what they were doing there. You had a motel that was essentially had people living there full-time under awful conditions. And across the street, you had the Bel Air that was one of the highest calls for police over the last couple of years. It was certainly not in the state that it was when I had my wedding reception there 25 years ago. And then you had Joe Roots that had been left essentially to rot. And the condition of that building was awful. So, you come to today and we're at a point where all those buildings will be gone shortly. We'll have a great opportunity to bring new buildings in place and new opportunities in an effort to try to, reinforce the type of community that Millcreek is. and to make it even more of a destination spot for those who come to visit Presque Isle, not only in the summer but throughout the year. So it's a very exciting day, from my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will just piggyback on that and say that we couldn't do this without what the city of Erie is doing as well. Between the Bayfront, the Downtown Development District, our West Bayfront, and the Parade Street work that's being done, we are a corridor. And we are a destination corridor, so we are only as good as our neighbors. And so I know the folks all across the county are excited for what's happening here. Okay, we already heard from our consultant today, and now we have citizens to be heard.
I'd like to know what impact you think.
Jerry, can you please speak into the microphone? I know. You do such a great job speaking, though.
Yeah, okay. Appreciate it. I have a question for you, really. Well, I am Jerry.
Jerry's for video.
The only thing that I look at it, and you talk about retail demand, I mean, you got retail up on 12th Street. You got the West Erie Plaza. How is, if you bring more retail in, what type of retail? Is it high end, middle, some low end, or, and then you talk a store, you already have a store right up the street. Are you going to encompass that into that? Or is that going to be offered to Bellows? But just the retail end of it kind of throws me off. I mean, and I haven't been part of this as I found out this was an important thing to come to, and maybe I should have stayed away. I think it's a good question. I mean, how do you think this retail is going to affect everybody? I mean, there's empty lots up on 12th Street, too. Been empty for a long time. And Bob's Steakhouse, they're gone. West Erie Plaza, I worry about West Erie Plaza. I mean, even though it's within that corridor. What's this going to draw out of that place? And then are we going to have another empty building there? That's my only concern. I don't know who I would address that to. You?
I think I certainly
I'm
can.
glad to answer. I just wanted to make sure he got his question out.
Yeah. Did you?
Oh, I'm glad to answer
Okay.
if you'd like
Sure,
me to.
go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, during the presentation I mentioned, this is not prescriptive. We're not telling someone they have to do retail.
Sure.
We're giving them ideas for what might work. So, to answer, is it high end, is it mid, is it whatever, that's really ultimately going to be up to a developer.
Sure.
What we've seen elsewhere, let's take the Van Aken district in Cleveland. That was an old retail site that wasn't going to work as retail was imagined in the 1960s and 70s. And so that site became the home of a food hall. It became the home of a specialty, like a Potraz type of business, plants, flowers, those things, and a number of other specialty retailers. What we in the commercial real estate world, we'd consider them strong local credit tenants, anchored by a couple of national credit tenants, and it's sometimes office-based retail. So again, these are just ideas. I'm saying names that folks might know or have heard of. So an example might be a bank. Sure. Right, like a bank that needs a retail location. We know that all across the country, bank footprints are shrinking, but yet they still need retail locations. So what I would imagine might go there, because if apartments go on the upper floors, then we call that supporting neighborhood retail. So again, I'll say a brand name that people might know, but something like a Subway. Maybe that goes there. Maybe something like a Starbucks. Maybe something like a Tim Hortons. We don't know. We haven't solicited that. Developers know how to do that. They will look at this and say, there is They either believe that retail demand, which comes from CoStar being a national, the world's largest aggregator of commercial real estate data, they think there's demand. Now, they might be wrong, and a developer may choose to agree with them or agree with you. I don't know, but it's developers that will do that work.
I didn't say it was wrong.
Oh, no,
I'm
I'm
just
just-
asking you how you think
Right.
it would affect what is already here.
Right, well, it's very different. So retail is very neighborhood specific. So if you look at something like the West Erie Plaza, which the VCG has, I think, done a tremendous job with repurposing that, they had to eliminate. Retail is no longer 5 and 7 and 9,000 square feet. Local retail is 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. Maybe a little bigger, maybe a little smaller. So they had to go through their process and say, to make this work, we're gonna have to reduce square footage. So we're proposing, and again, as an idea, the developers will decide this. This is to do a little bit of the developer's homework for them so that they say, oh, these folks understand what's gonna be necessary for us to make a decision. And I think that don't quote me because this is down now, but I think it was 25,000 square feet of retail or, 10, 2,500 square foot locations. But a developer is going to have to go through that analysis on their own. As far as the store on the corner, it's 17,000 square feet. A typical grocery store today is 70,000 square feet minimum. Something like Bellows over at the Colony Plaza, that's, I think, I'm going to guess about 7,000 square feet. The goal of this, and we're going to tell this to potential development partners, is to not go steal from our other great, projects. The Colony Plaza is, Mr. Jasu, who's purchased that, has very big plans for making that, keeping that a stable, good neighborhood resource. So the idea isn't we're going to bring someone in and say, go poach all of these tenants. VCG, different approach to their retail. They have a mix of national credit tenants like the pet supply store and Planet Fitness, along with some local retail that is definitely at the higher end, and the restaurant. So no, we don't come to this group or the public saying we have all the answers. We're saying that we think that based on the comprehensive plan, the neighborhood plan, and feedback from the national researchers, there's probably a little room for some retail there.
Okay. Like I said, I've seen so many come and go. You know that. Even downtown, look at the food court. They're in and out of there like.
Well, let me address that
Like
if I
fleas
could, because
running
that's
away
one of
from
the,
dogs.
I don't mean to interrupt, but that's one of the most misunderstood concepts. We've done food halls before, and we're very, very familiar with that concept. The concept is you're incubating businesses there. The whole point is they'll either sink or they'll swim.
Sure.
And several of them, like the one that just left, is opening a permanent store on Parade Street. That's what we want. We want to incubate those entrepreneurs that have ideas for these types of businesses, and then we want them to find a permanent home. And in that case, think about this. It's fantastic. We incubate them downtown where Erie Insurance employees and Gannon employees and UPMC employees come and have lunch. And then if they like it and they're successful and we move them to a different location, we further develop the development that
Or you're
Mrs. Clear was
enhancing-
talking about with the
Sure.
East Side Renaissance.
You're enhancing by doing
Yeah,
this. I
that's
understand
right.
that. I just meant the way I'm old school. I've lived here I'll be 73 this year. I've seen come, go, come, go.
That is the nature of retail. Retail is a fickle business. That's why, by the way, remember the word I use, supporting retail. Because what will drive the economics of this are things like the hospitality side, the hotel, the apartments. Those things are the highest value. Again, I'm not talking about the Gateway District, but just as you're out talking to friends and being able to share this information, the highest value real estate on a per square foot basis in terms of economic return are hotels, followed by apartments. And then you get into all kinds of other things like large warehousing and mini storage, believe it or not, but that we're not doing that there. So anyhow, I think that it's a great question. What impact will this have on the other developments? We think that our approach is going to be slightly different and it should enhance. Thank you, though, for the question.
And we're not worried about going forward with what's going on here currently, are we?
No, you know what?
You know what I'm talking
I do, yes. You know, I think that a lot of us hear some of the national rhetoric, and that is not necessarily applicable to what's happening at the state level and the local level. They do exist separately, and I think that sometimes, me included, I get very caught up in some of those conversations, and then it was funny because then I heard the governor's address, and I thought, oh, okay, so we still have order within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We still have order within Erie County. We still have order here within Millcreek Township. So I think that we are moving forward because I think history has taught us that what's happening maybe at the national level is kind of existing outside of what we're dealing with on that day-to-day. Okay, thank you. Yes. Anything else? Okay. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. There is an issue did arise late last week that I would like to have a quick executive session on afterwards if everybody's available. There's no need to have any vote on it. It's just informational. And so if you'd like to adjourn the meeting, if you so choose,
Okay.
you can. We don't need to return for any action.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you to all. Thank you to our partners in Altair, our partners in Infinite Erie, and Kim Thomas especially, shout out. All of our legislators that have taken the time to speak with us, Senator Laughlin and Representative Bizzaro, Representative Mike Kelly's office, Senator McCormick's, Senator Fetterman. We are so lucky to have the support of so many institutions in Erie County and in the state of Pennsylvania. So thank you very much. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.